gets too late. With some subjects to talk about. Got 14 minutes. Before I do that, let's do some research. How do you pronounce this? Welcome to a special edition of Tequila Corner. We're here for our 38th anniversary, and we're talking about Milagro Tequila as well as Antorreyes. I'm here with Jaciara Jolivera. She's the brand ambassador for Antorreyes over here, and of course my father, who is basically our historian buff. So he's going to give you a little bit of brief history about the Milagro, and then we'll try them out.
Is a phenomenal tequila. It comes from Los Altos de Jalisco, and it's grown in a single estate regions of Mexico. And the nice thing about this tequila is that it's so smooth because of the aging process. The regular one is in American oak barrels, and this other one, the Barrel Select, this one is in French oak barrels, and it gives it an extreme smoothness, and it's grown in organic, rich organic soils from Los Altos de Jalisco. And for example, the white is triple distilled, and the regular one, also in the Reposados, triple distilled, and the Añejos triple distilled. And the Reposado is 6 months, the other one's 18 months, which is, it's actually more than the regular ones, giving it this smoothness and vanilla flavors and the oak flavors and a little bit of the pepper. And this other one here, the Reposado's 10 months in French oak barrels, and the Añejo is 3 years in French oak barrels, and they're all triple distilled.
For those that don't know, actually, the differences that white oak barrels give you compared to French oak barrels. The white oak, you're going to get a lot more vanilla, more of the spice that you get as well, and you're also going to get, with the French oak, it's going to be a lot cleaner. So very, very smooth finish. You're not going to get as much heat as you usually do with American white oak, and the vanilla is going to be a lot more subtle. So right now we're going to try the Milagro Blanco.
It's a very smooth and floral, and the spirits just come up at you, and you're basically at the tequila house at the distillery. And if you really want to be at the distillery, you might want to pour just a tinge on your hand and smell the cooked agave. It's cooked in brick ovens and slow process, small batch, and it's just a special smooth.
Incredibly smooth.
Triple distilled.
I mean, for me, when I am going to go evaluate a new tequila or go to do a tasting, I always start with the Plata or the Blanco, right? Because it's usually the best representation of the tequila, of the agave.
100%.
So that's always my go-to, and this is a beautiful tequila.
So we're gonna jump, I guess, here to the Añejo, which we are going to use later on for our little mixology lesson here. And yeah, so let's see how this tastes.
And the añejo too is the same thing. You gotta smell it in the middle, get the full bouquet of it, and it's 18 months in American oak, and it's just a very smooth triple distilled tequila.
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny tasting order, jumping from the silver to the añejo, but we wanted to make sure that we tasted that because we're going to be using it in a cocktail in just a little bit.
Which we're excited to try.
Yeah, kind of like an old-fashioned style cocktail. So a lot of people think old-fashions, they think whiskey, American whiskey in particular. So we wanted to have something that had a little bit more age on it, that would resemble a lot of those flavors to kind of pair well with the cocktail. So.
And then also I think because it comes from the highlands of Jalisco, and you get more sun. And then also I think because it comes from the highlands of Jalisco, the rich, you get more soil. And then also I think because it comes from the highlands of Jalisco, the rich, you get more soil. And then also I think it comes from the highlands of Jalisco.
Yeah, I mean, it's higher elevations where there's a lot of sun. You tend to get slightly sweeter agave.
All right. Let's see if that fixes that piece. Are you able to hear me at least? Um, from my desktop, I'm not. I don't have sound. What about now? Are you able to hear me now? Okay. Um. Okay. No, that sounds good. I think we're good. I'm not sure what was happening, but I think I know why. On my screen, where I had my starting soon screen, where it kind of had like a countdown. For some reason, even though I didn't have an audio set up for that, it seemed like it was catching my audio, so I lowered down the volume. I thought I raised it back up, but I guess not. Damn. Okay, man. So I've been talking and nobody could hear nothing I was saying. All right. Well, that kind of sucks. But I guess that what I'm drinking today. This is the bottle I'm drinking today. Largo Tequila. I never had it before. My first time buying it. I heard a lot of good things about it. Based on what I was reading, they store it in like French oak, which supposedly supposed to be better. I guess slightly better. Um, at least that's what I'm hearing, anyways. I think for like 18 months as well. If I read it correctly, it's not a cheap bottle. I mean, it's not like crazy expensive, but not cheap either. I think I paid $44 for this bottle. So I'm actually, excited to give it a taste and see how good it tastes. Because again, it's not cheap, man. For a bottle of tequila, if there's a few good ones that I have tasted that are within that $25-$30 range, and they're good. I think once you go beyond 35 and above, um, again, it's you're expecting better quality. You are expecting the taste to be a little bit better, smoother, things of that nature. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to get out of this. So we'll see how good this tastes. I'm gonna open it up in a minute. But yeah, what I was saying earlier was, I'm rearranging my office, and so that's why my background looks slightly different. Those of y'all who have joined before, normally you may see like a whiteboard in the back, um, because my desk used to be over there. Well, I end up moving it. Kind of hard to tell, I guess, but I ended up moving it somewhere else in my office. So of course, got the back of the wall over here, and so either way, it's coming together. I'm not done yet. Probably going to be another couple of weeks before I actually get everything done. I had my workstation over here, and then I end up moving that over there. So my workstation's over there, and then of course this is what I want to call my streaming, slash gaming station. So I have two stations, right? One that I use for work, specifically for work, and then of course I have this setup here that I use for streaming and for gaming. Um, like I may end up gaming later on tonight, some Halo, Infinite on Twitch, and then of course tomorrow normally I stream on Saturdays, so if I don't stream tonight on Twitch Halo, I'll end up doing that tomorrow. But this is the station that I do all of that, my streaming and gaming and so on. But yeah, no, though once I get done rearranging, doing everything, I'll in my live stream I'll kind of share with y'all what I've done so far and how everything's coming together. But man, I'm glad. Hopefully, all of y'all doing good today. Um, man. So appreciate it for jumping in, and again, man, whatever y'all have, any questions, man, feel free, leave a comment. Be more than happy to answer any questions you have. But let's go ahead and get started, man. I'm gonna pop this bottle open because I have heard a lot of good things about it, and we'll see how good it is. Again, I don't think it's cheap either. It's 40. What did I say? $44. So it's not a cheap bottle. So I am expecting it to be at a high standard, but we'll see, right? We'll see. What about y'all? Anybody else out there drinking? If you are, what are y'all drinking this evening? Y'all drinking bourbon, whiskey, tequila, vodka, beer? What's our choice of drink tonight? Ooh, I can smell it already, man. It smells good. It smells good. It has a good smell to it. Diet Mountain Dew. Water. Hey, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with some water and Mountain Dew. That's for sure. So we say Mountain Dew. Are you talking about Mountain Dew without nothing in it, or you got some vodka inside your Mountain Dew? It smells good, but the agaves is not as strong. I wish it would have had a stronger smell to it for the agaves. You can smell it, but it's not like in your face either. But you can smell it. It tastes good. It does taste good though, I gotta say. I wish I had a stronger smell. The agaves, I don't know. I love that smell for some reason. I just love it when it smells that way. But the taste is on point. It actually tastes good and it's smooth. So nothing in it. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Man, this is good, man. I gotta say, this is good. I'm liking it. That's cool. So you mentioned that you're working. Um, you working on anything specific? Like, are you working at home right now, or you're like at your job working? I know it's kind of late, so I don't know if you're like if you work second shift hours or you're just doing some kind of work at home. Does smell good though, man. I do like the smell, but I gotta say I have smelled some working from home, open CV. That's cool. So when you say open CV, are you working on a project for visualization? Like, are you doing some sort of um, like where you're capturing streaming, like a video stream of some sort, and trying to either extract data or like I'm just kind of curious what you're working on. Let's see, Python, Raspberry 4, Raspberry Pi for object recognition. Okay, that's cool. Trying to increase the frame rate on my Raspberry Pi camera. So I'm assuming you have probably one of the little small. I actually have one. I have it somewhere. Let me see. I think I have it over here. Let me check. Oh, damn. Where's the camera? I thought the camera was over there. So I have one of these small Raspberry Pis as well. And I bought a camera to connect to my Raspberry Pi. Let me open it up. So there's a connection, I guess, internal. Do you have did you buy a camera is it like a USB camera, or you're talking about the camera that you actually connect to the motherboard of your Raspberry Pi? Because I know I was doing some testing on this project USB camera. The ribbon camera. Yes, the ribbon camera. My bad. That's what I meant. You got the ribbon camera, yeah. So I actually bought the ribbon camera as well for this Raspberry Pi, and it's tough because the camera is not. I mean, it works, but by all means, like it's not the highest quality, right? It still gets the job done, depends on what you're doing, right? But it is kind of limited. So let's see, it's bypassing the CPU, so it goes directly to the GPU. And you theoretically should be able to get higher frame rates. So on the Raspberry Pi, and I haven't really done like that kind of work on a Raspberry Pi. I know I did work on a project for a little bit that we were working on for. It wasn't a client of mine. It was more so the guy that I'm working with, his wife, way back, like I don't know, 8 years ago or whatever, way back when we used to work together, and then. I ended up getting in contact with her because she ended up finding out that I, kind of had my own business and stuff like that. So there was this project that we were I was kind of helping them out with ultimately. It was became a lot more complicated at the end, but nevertheless, we made some progress. Initially we were building it to kind of install the software, have the program run in a Raspberry Pi, and we're using Python. And ultimately, what we were doing was we were connecting to the camera to be able to detect like a gauge, right? Kind of like a air pressure gauge, for example. So as the needle went up, like so ultimately we were taking a recording, a stream of a gauge, and as we built it where you could configure the settings. Let's say, for example, the settings could be you have a gauge that goes from 0 to 300, and we could configure it to say we want the min to be 100, we want the max to be 130. So ultimately we want the gauge to be within that range, and then if the gauge ever goes below or beyond that range, then that is where we would end up sending a message to the via MQTT. That's kind of where the whole Internet of Things came in for that project, and we're using the MQTT protocol, the messaging protocol, and it was cool because we made some progress on it. But there were some challenges, man, by all means, that we had to deal with. That kind of like one of the challenges that we had was the camera that they wanted to. Initially, when we started, we were kind of starting the framework. I had a Raspberry Pi because that was the goal. We're going to have a Raspberry Pi. So I ended up buying the camera. And it was kind of iffy because the camera had to be real close to the object. If it was too far, you couldn't see it. It was too blurry, things of that nature. So eventually, though, the more we started talking about that project, it kind of came up that, hey, we're, they're going to provide the camera. They want to use this, I forgot the name of the brand of camera, but it's like a high-end type camera. I mean, like that camera was probably like $1,200-$1,500. So it was a 4K high-end camera. So you could be far away, zoom in, do all that kind of stuff. So the camera was cool. The problem is whenever I started we started testing with that high-end camera, man, the resource, and I'm not even talking about my Raspberry Pi. I'm using my current PC that I have now, which is still pretty up to date, man. I have a 3700X Ryzen and a 6900 XT for my GPU. So I mean, it's not a wimpy machine. But whenever I was testing running on my desktop, man, it was eating up like 50% of my resources like that. And that's kind of what we're like, dude, that's way too much. And I ended up testing it with a more lower quality camera, and then of course the resource usage dropped drastically, down to like maybe 15-20% max. So again, it was the quality of the camera was just, I guess, too much that our app that we were building couldn't handle. I mean, it was able to handle on the desktop, but I don't know how the hell that was going to be able to handle on the Raspberry Pi. So, but it was interesting though. There's a lot of learnings that we kind of got out of that. Eventually, when it ended up happening with the project, we kind of end up stopping the project for a couple of reasons. One of the things that kind of came out of it, like again, this is where the requirements wasn't really known as well up front, but it kind of came after. And the way I worked on this project, it was way different than the way I would normally work on a project that I work for a client. A lot of the stuff, it's kind of well defined up front. You know, I'm able because I got to give the client a quote, so I got to get much requirements up front, you know, to be able to even give them a proper quote. But if for this project, it was something I was working on the side. I was kind of working with them. It wasn't as organized, so we were just kind of working and starting to do things here and there to kind of make progress. But as we started working on, as time went on, a few months went on, we got some better requirements, and ultimately what ended up coming to be is they had this platform that they use where you could create like applets, and so which means whatever code base that we created, we would have to convert all of that over to Java, because their applet programs that they have, the platform require it to be in Java, and again, nobody on my team is an expert on Java, and I'm not an expert in Java either. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure we could figure it out, but I really didn't want to go down that road either. So, let's see, was the gauge digital? Your camera was looking at numbers changing or clock? No, it wasn't digital. I actually have one. Let me get the gauge. I can show you real quick. So I still have the gauge that we're doing some testing on. And here's a good example, one that I mentioned earlier. So let me put it in front. It was literally one of these kind of gauges. It's not getting in focus, but at least you can see it, right? It's a pressure gauge. And that's ultimately what it was. It was the company that we were going to initially build this for was a gas company. A lot of the stuff that they had right now was kind of archaic from a technology standpoint. And one of the things that ultimately they asked for, like, hey, we want to be able to have a camera. Like, none of their equipment was digital. Like, one of the things, if they had digital equipment, like the hardware, that's the way you solve that issue in my mind. But I think what it was, they didn't want to spend the money on buying all digital equipment to be able to send messages when the readings are below or above a threshold. So their equipment that they had these analog gauge readers, right? Which is, very old school and just literally moves by pressure. And that's kind of where we were working on the app, where the camera will face it, literally they'd be pointing at it from a distance. And then based on whatever measurements that we set, let's say we put a threshold of 100 to 130. If it goes below or above, it will send a message using the MQTT messaging protocol to their one of their servers. So initially, you're right. Initially, when we first started building it, we did start building it where it was kind of recognizing these patterns, right? Like this, we got a white background, red number, things of that nature, right? The challenge that we kind of came across was, and again, this is where it wasn't well defined initially. It kind of came over time. Was, hey, well, here's a sample of a gauge of one piece of equipment, but there's going to be another piece of equipment next to it that could have a different gauge with let's say, for example, a black background and white numbers, or it could have a green background with white numbers or black numbers or whatever, right? So you could have different colors. You could have gauges that are not formatted the same way. Like, this is a gauge, it's kind of hard to tell, but this is a gauge that's from 0 to 300. Well, there could be other gauges where it's, let's say, 0 to 100. or you could have another gauge that's only that the range is 50 to, I don't know, 150. So because of all these different formats, different patterns, and some of them they did not even know what we were gonna deal with. Like it's not like they were not able to really tell us up front, like, hey, these are the gauges we're gonna be using, so we could kind of build, like build it off those patterns. It was more like, hey, build something that should work for any gauge. So that's where it became more challenging. Now, what we ended up doing, we ended up building it where we identified the object. So let's say like right now I have the gauge over here, right? So let's say the camera, we have one gauge over here. We identified the object by putting a square around the section. That's kind of how the app worked. We put a square around the section. I may have a video. You know what? I know I have a video. I need to find it, and maybe I'll show some of the testing we're doing. But you put a square around the gauge. Once you put a square around the gauge, it knows your X and Y axis points from at least more from an image standpoint of what we're analyzing. So now it's focused on this square. Based on that, we were able to determine here's the center. We were able to determine the gauge, so it recognized the pattern of the gauge. Like in this case, it's red, but if it happens to be green, it will recognize it as green, and so on. And then we had to specify the starting point and end points. So ultimately, we were like, it kind of more manually determined. We have a start point and we have an end point, and then we would specify our min would be here and our max would be here. So it kind of knew just more of as the gauge went up, it was able to determine the like I guess X and Y axis points of where that, and of course if we're above a specific point that we specified or below, that's how they were able to flag it. So it wasn't determining it necessarily because it was reading the numbers. It was more so determining if it's below a threshold or above based off of X and Y axis points of how it was if it's beyond or below that. Let me see if I can find the video, man. I'll share it with you. Again, this was a few months back, probably like half a year ago or so. But let me see if I could find it, and I'll kind of show you. We did some testing and ran some demos, and I know I have a copy of the image. I just need to find it, I guess. So let me take a look at it. If I could find it real quick. If I can't find it, then I'll try to find it some other day, and then I'll show y'all then what we put together. Let's see if I have any images. I know I have images. I know I have video, not images. Actual video of that. Where is it? This would have been. Let me sort my file types to look at all the video that I have. No, that's not it. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's this guy. Nope, that's not it either. Maybe it's this guy. So I think this is the old one that we did. This may not be the new one. So let me show you this. Let me share my screen. And this is the one that we kind of did it to automatically detect the gauge. And I guess let me play it and then I explain what this is doing. There it goes. So let me go ahead and show this. Let me play it. I guess let me play it from the beginning. So what we did here is, this is when we first started the project, like way back when, and what we ended up doing here was we ended up having it where the camera, like where we were able to auto detect the gauge, right? Oh man, did my camera freeze up? You know what? I forgot my camera freezes up on me after 30 minutes if I don't have my app active on my phone. So let me go ahead and get that activated. There it goes. So it doesn't turn off. So what we in it, this was like in the very beginning when we kind of started building something, testing it out. What it does, so this square box supposed to be if there was multiple gauges, right? So let's say we had one gauge here, then we have another gauge here. It would identify both gauge automatically, and then as you could tell, it's identifying the needle, and of course the red line is going up with the needle, and then that's kind of where we're trying to do things automatically to try to identify read the numbers to be able to determine if it's below this number, send out the message. If it's above a specific number, send out the message. Again, we had some challenges with that, but we were able to get some of it somewhat working. So that worked somewhat okay. Now, the problem that came from this was not necessarily the problem, but the thing that the feedback that we got back was, well, because we're dealing with all these other gauges, different colors, and who knows what readings, there was some fear that the gauge reader, like the reading that we're doing, the way it's automatically determining the gauge and all that, it may not do it properly. So there was some fear because of that. So they were like, we want to have control of it. We want to be able to set the threshold, and we want to be able to be more specific on when it runs and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where we kind of redid this project somewhat, and then that's where we had the ability to specify identify the gauge manually by doing like a drag and drop square over the gauge. And then we actually drew a line for the gauge to the gauge reader, like the red bar, to determine the gauge. And then of course we specified the starting point, end point, and then we specified the min and the max. And then that's how we were able to kind of, more so not visually detecting the numbers and determining where that, but more so just placement through X and Y axis points to determine if the needle was above or below a threshold, right? So that's kind of the way we did the second phase. But again, it was cool. A lot of learnings, a lot of cool things came out of it. Sometimes that happens, right? You start a project and it just doesn't, it may not turn into nothing. But I think working on it was some cool experiences, dealing with what we were dealing with. I'll see if I can find we had another video that we did with the newer code. I'll see if I can find that guy. I don't know if I can, but if I'm able to find it, I'll share that with you of whenever we made those updates. Oh, you know what? I do have it here. I think I found it. Let's see if this is it or not. I think this may be it. Oh, here we go. I think this is it. Yes, this is it. Let me share my screen again. Let me see. What did you say? Seems like a cool project. So here's the thing with this project, and this is where all of my projects that I work on is normally based on a client. Either an existing client or a new client. They reach out to me. They're like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. They give me requirements. I give them a quote, and then if they accept it, then we continue on. This project was slightly different than that. And this is where I really wouldn't do it that way going forward no more, but it's just you gotta learn and move on. Because I did not know the guy, but I knew his wife. We worked together way back when, and so the approach to me was like, hey man, we got this project, we're planning, hopefully if we could build what ultimately what the client wants. We're gonna it'll be a monthly subscription, I guess you could say, where they will pay us every month to be using the software, using our application to for their jobs. And again, I kind of initially I kind of agreed to it, and it was supposed to be kind of like the whole profit share type deal. Like, all right, we go 50-50 or whatever it may be type deal. Now, maybe if things would have worked out, maybe it would have been fine because things did not technically work out. When I say work out, was the client ended up changing the requirements and wanting some other stuff, or wanting, eventually they came back, saying, well, whatever app we build, we're gonna have to build it to their platform, which requires, it's like an applet, which we got to convert our code to Java. And again, that's where, like, well, damn, that kind of sucks. So, I'm not a Java programmer. I mean, I could read some Java code and whatever, but that's just not my expertise, right? At the end of the day. And, so, like, damn, that, just those kind of issues. So, I guess to answer your question, did I get paid? The answer is no. I did spend a lot of my time on this, and that's kind of where the waste came in. And again, this was my learning from this is like, this really was this was not my project. I shouldn't really done what I should not contribute those kind of time and effort that I did for something that is not paying, and it's not even mine to begin with. It's different if it's like my baby, my app that I'm building together, and I'm going to try to sell it to a client. That's different if I put in my own effort for that. But in this case, it wasn't. I was kind of more, going to jump on board with the other guy. And then on top of that, it just, a lot of issues, it just didn't come to pass, right? So either way, good learning experiences. There's a lot of things that I came out of that I learned that I thought was cool. But it really wasn't my project to begin with. So would I do it again? Probably not. So let me show you this other, this is the newer version of some of the changes that we did. So let me run it. So this is where we're testing with a file initially, but ultimately the concept is the same thing, like through video streaming, where, as you could tell, what I'm doing here, I'm selecting the gauges that I want to monitor. So in this case, I selected 4 gauges. After I selected 4 gauges, now we have 4 gauges to configure. So as you could tell, I'm configuring my gauge, my actual reader, and then I'm specifying. So the process is specify your reader first, specify start and end point, and then we're specifying max threshold. So that's kind of where I'm doing here. We're highlighting the reader, max, min, max, and then we're specifying max. We did not have min here yet, but we did have max, the max threshold. As you could tell, when the reader is beyond the max, it turns red. I don't know if you noticed that in the video. When the reader, the needle, is below threshold, like here it's below, it stays green. But when it's above threshold, which we consider the max threshold, like right there, it turns red, right? So that's kind of the whole, we had logic behind the scenes to make it turn green or red, and just more of a visual, turn green or red. But also from a back end, whenever it did turn green, because it was still within threshold, it was good. But once it turned red, it will send out a message, via MQTT, send it over to their server, whatever server they were using to send, let them know, like, hey, this gauge is above threshold or below threshold. That was like the core of it. There was like other pieces we had to do, to kind of fine tune it that we never really got to do, because we kind of stopped the project at that point. More so like, labeling the gauge. As you saw in that example, I was able to set up like 4 gauges, like set up the needle, the min, max, do all of that, or not min, but max at least on 4 different gauges. But all of the gauges represent, in theory, right, they could represent different things. So some of the things that we were going to do, we just never did, was to be able to label those gauges. Like, all right, this is gauge who knows, right? Gas, whatever, and then this is gauge, gauge 2, and we'll give it some kind of name so you know what it is. And then ultimately, if those gauges ever go beyond a threshold, that's where we would send the gauge name as well to the server, so they know like which one is having issues or which one's above or below a threshold. But again, overall, it was a cool project, cool experience. But those are things, though, man. You come to like, I felt I had made that mistake twice, and I should have done the first time. I didn't do it. Second time, I still did it. It didn't plan out. It didn't go. Wasn't the results that we didn't have successful results. That's fine, but I don't think I would do that again. So by that I means, whenever because I know how to program, and y'all may have the same issue. Like, if y'all know how to program, you may have people come up to you like, oh, I got this idea to build the next better, Facebook, right, or whatever app they have in mind, because they know you could program, and they're not programmers, so in their mind, like, oh, it's easy though, it's easy, you just got to do X, Y, and Z, and it's easy in their mind. But we all, those of us who have been programming for a while know that, hey, it's not always that's as easy. There's some basic stuff that may be easy, but there's a lot of back end stuff that becomes very complicated. It's not as easy. So either way, this was some like 3 years ago. No, it had to be maybe 3 years ago. I had somebody reach out to me saying, hey, I started building this app. They hired like a India team, like some team in India, to kind of build the core of it, but they had all these bugs and issues, and India was just taking a long time to address these issues or whatever. And so that's kind of where he was like, hey, like, maybe you could help me out. And at first I was like, yeah, sure. I was thinking more like, hey, you're just a customer, so yeah, I'd be more than happy to help you out, and I'll charge you. And then of course it was more like, whoa, man, again, this is where the clients try to become cheap as well too. But it was like, well, man, maybe if you help me out, we could, be partners, right? I'll give you some part ownership of the app. And he kind of explained what he's trying to do. And then at first I was like, you know what? Yeah, that sounds good. Like, dude, I want part ownership of your app, so I'm on board if that's the case. And initially I started putting effort, and we even met. We went to a meeting with a hospital, like a big hospital in Florida. So I live in Texas, but went to the hospital in Florida because he wanted to do a presentation. So we went, presented the app as is, but the app was not ready to go live. They again had all kinds of bugs, all kinds of issues, things of that nature, right? But either way, he went, did a demo. I went with him, and then everything seemed good. But there, of course, it was the whole like, hey, like, we're supposed to be partnerships and everything. And that's I'm on board, but we need to nail something down official, like on paper, because by then I was already spending a lot of time, a lot of effort, going through all of that. We're doing some migrations where we're migrating the database over from a SQL server to a Postgres. I believe the India team that built it, they had the app running on one of their servers that they had, like, I guess, in their office. So I was working on migrating all of that, the source code, over to an AWS EC2 instance. So I was doing all of that kind of work, all of those efforts, while they were trying to fix some of the bugs that existed. And then once I was done, I was gonna start fixing the bugs and doing all the other updates that we wanted to do. But it never came to be on the whole, we're supposed to be a partner. That's how it was sold to me. Like I told you, I'm on board, but I need something, dude. Like, you got to put something on paper. I need to sign something, legally, that at least if you want me to have skin in the game, right? Like, you want it, again, because I wasn't getting paid either. It was all more with the assumption that we were going to team up and, pretty much become somewhat partners or whatever. Either way, and then, nothing really happened. It was always like, I'm still working on it, trying to figure things out, blah, blah, blah. And then there was thing we talked about price. So, like, hey, well, how are you going to price it and whatever? He just seemed kind of like, well, like, it's almost he didn't want to tell me how much he wanted to price. And then that's where I was kind of like, dude, well, if we're going to be partners, I need to know how much you're going to charge the hospitals for this software. Like, you're gonna charge them something. Like how much? Like I do want to know. And if we're gonna be profit sharing off the license off of this, dude, I mean, you gotta tell me, because the last thing I want to find out, like, hey, you're charging, I don't know, let's say $1,000 a license per hospital or something, but you're keeping it away from me, and you're just telling me, oh yeah, you get your $100 share per hospital, whatever, where you're keeping the, I don't know, right? I mean, either way, I had to tell them, like, dude, I'm just gonna, like, I'm not, like, I should have not done this and go our separate ways. And we end up we left on good terms, put it that way. We really did, but we moved on. And then of course last year, I think it was last year, that's when I had somebody else reach out to me, and which is what I was talking to you about, the whole Gauge project. And then that's where, again, I didn't charge them. It was gonna be kind of like, hey, we're gonna be partners. I'll get a profit share, this and that. And that never really came to be either. But the reason why this kind of stopped necessarily was more some other client changes that they had with Java and things of that nature. So, but either way, nothing ever came to pass either with that. They were just kind of like, all right, yeah, we're gonna do this. Like, we're gonna be whatever. But he had like another partner with him, a partner that wasn't involved in the business, but I think he had helped out on funding for some other stuff. Like I guess the other partner was more like the connections guy. He's the one that had the connections with these other companies that we're going to sell this software to. But in the same time, because he had those connections, that's really all he brought to the table, right? The connections. He wasn't doing nothing besides that. And it sounded like he wanted a big chunk of whatever profit share was going to be. So either way, it's not like mine would have been small regardless. Either way, it didn't work out. I should have learned from the first time. But that's why now I don't really do that no more, man. When somebody comes up to me and say, hey, I got this app, they got this awesome idea, we can be partners. Like, I'll be the business side of it, you'll be the tech side of it, you build it. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that no more. I have my own projects that I'm working on. Right now I'm in beta version on one of my apps that I just released. So any of y'all, if you're interested, go take a look at it if you want. It's called Go Share It. I'll put the URL in the chat. So pretty much I just we deployed this one with the last week, and ultimately it's an app sharing, it's a file sharing platform. So it's very similar, like kind of similar to let me rephrase. So there's two platforms out there that I feel that are very similar to mine. One of them is called Dropbox Transfer. Oh shit, I'm not sharing my screen. Damn, there it goes. Thought I was sharing my screen. So the app that I just released about a week ago or so is called Go Share It. Again, I put the URL in the chat. So man, if you want to register, play around with it. But and again, it's live, so I mean, there may be, again, it's still in beta version, so maybe there's a few bugs here or there that we're still addressing. But overall, it should be working fine. It's a file sharing app platform where you can share files with somebody. So a good example would be, let's say you're trying to share a file with an external customer, a customer that's not part of your organization. Well, normally the way you would share a file would either be through email, like that. That's one option. You could just email them the file, and that's fine. You could, if they happen to be within the same platform that you're using. So let's say, for example, they use Microsoft 365, you use Microsoft 365. Okay, in those cases, you could share it with them. You could, sometimes depending on your configuration in your Office 365 account, you may be able to send a link. They could access it. It just depends. You could send a public link where they could access it publicly. Now, the thing with public links is it's public. If somebody else comes across that link, well, they could download it as well, right? So it just depends on how sensitive your data is. Ultimately, what I did on mine is just kind of let me walk you through it. If I have a file that I want to share with somebody, I'm just going to pick any file right now. I'm going to pick this file. This platform is share first, storage second. That's kind of how it is. So the purpose of it is just to share it. It's not necessarily the purpose not to store your files, it's more so to share your files. Once you share it, then we don't need to keep it no more. You're just sharing it and then you're done. So if I select the file, I can select my duration, which is I probably need to change it, but expiration, when the file expires from anybody to access your file. So you can put 1 hour, 1 day, or 7 days, right? So let's say I do 7 days. That means this link will be active for 7 days. And then I could do a passcode. Passcode means that you need to put a 6-digit number code in order to be able to download the file. Without it, you cannot download the file. That's pretty much. And then from here, you can just, type in, whoever you want to email. So if you want to email somebody, right, iamblue.net, which is my contact email for my stream. So, you could just put, email them directly from here, or you could email them later. It's up to you. But nevertheless, you do that, upload, share, it'll upload the file. And then ultimately it'll email me. I will receive an email telling me that a file has been shared. That somebody trying to share a file with me. So that's what will happen. And so now I'm looking for, let's see. And yep, I got my email. Let me go ahead and open it up. So here's the email that I get, and it came from the support goshareit.io. And ultimately it just tells me somebody's sharing a file. Here's the file name, telling me who's sharing it with me. And then of course it gives me the passcode here. Then I could just download it from here. So if I click on it, let me go ahead and do that. It'll open up a window and you need to put in the passcode. If I just click download, it won't take it, right? It needs a passcode in order for you to download that file. So that we did that just kind of add at least a layer of security. We are going to add a password option as well, where it generates either system can generate a, let's say 20, 30, word passcode for you, or you could provide your own. But same concept, right? Then ultimately, if you do have a file that you have stored here, you want to share it later, you could just always do copy shareable link. And then you could just email it to them directly, through your email if you want. Because maybe you just wanted to come from you directly, not from the system. You could do that as well. Maybe you want to text it to somebody. A good example would be I shared, this was last week, I believe. I ended up sharing a video with my actual family member. And but the video, when you text it to somebody, it gets all distorted because it gets compressed down. The quality get lost. It looks bad. So I wanted them to see like in the highest quality possible, like the original quality. So that's what I did. I ended up uploading the file, the video through here. It's very quick, and then I end up sharing, just copying the link, and I text it to them. Because again, you could use your phone as well, right? It's mobile friendly. So I ended up texting to them, then they were able to download it. As you could tell, I have this download counter over here. So as people do download the file, there will be this counter that will just continue to go up. So it kind of tells you, hey, you got, how many times your file has been downloaded. So either way, though, this has been released. It's there. Anybody, those of y'all who are joining, more than welcome to use it. Again, it's still in beta version. What we are going to do is anybody who's using it, and they provide us some feedback of like, hey, I found this issue or whatever, pretty much helps us identify issues. Once we do go live and start we include we're going to have a subscription model that's going to have more features. We're going to just enroll them over for free to have that subscription account at no price. That's all just for the purpose of helping out, right? Helping out some of the testing as they found issues, bringing it up to us, things of that nature. So again, maybe if you have a use case for it, man, use it, right? It is free to use. I'm not charging. I am going to have a free version even once we release the subscription version. The free version would allow you to upload a file up to 5 gigs, which is pretty good size file. The paid version would be 50 gigs for now, and ultimately we're gonna work on doing 100 gigs and then of course 200 gig files. But for right now, it will be 50 gigs. But either way, now for me, this is one of the reasons why I probably would not partner with nobody else anymore going forward, because hey, we got our own projects, man. We got our own apps that we're actually building in house. That it's our own, like our my company's, we own, my company owns it, right? It's not an app that I'm building for a client. It's my app. I own it. And then maybe there's some success in these apps. Maybe there's not, right? Who knows? But time will tell. That's the whole purpose, right? You got to try it out, see how things work out. And if things work out well, awesome. If they don't work out, hey, they don't. It is what it is, right? So what time is it? It's about to be 10. So man, it's already been an hour. It went by pretty quick. So what was I gonna talk about? Damn it, there was something I'm gonna talk to everybody about. Damn it, man! I actually forgot. Let me see if I wrote down some notes. There were some notes that I was gonna discuss. Last week I discussed about the whole issue that people were having with SharePoint. Let's see. Hey, what's up, Christopher? So let's see. You're asking, do I know how I can iterate through files to check for what values are in the columns? So just to make sure, are you saying you have a folder? They just call it folder A, and inside that folder you have 10 CSV files or Excel files, like I don't know, but you have 10 files inside that folder, and you want to be able to read each file, and then inside that file you want to be able to determine a value from a specific column of each file. Is that what you're referring to by iterating over through files? Just want to make sure I understand the request. So your files, are they the same format, or they like all different formats? Like for example, if you're dealing with CSV files, are all the files CSV and they all have the same kind of header and column placement? All of the columns have the same name for each file. Is it Excel or CSV? Excel. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is pretty much identify the list of files. So let's go through that right quick, man. I think this is something that we could actually go through right as I'm streaming, and we could figure that out. So what I'm gonna do is, all right, let me get this set up real quick. So this would be YouTube. Let me create a project in a folder so we could kind of go through this and test it out. I'm gonna call this Python look up. All right, so let's do that. But the list of files will increase as days goes on. So that's fine if they increase. So let's say for example today, let's say today you got 10 files, and next week you have 15 files, right? One for every day or something like that. When you run the process, do you still want to iterate over those 10 files that you scanned today? Or are you trying to create a process where if I scan 10 files today, when you run the script again, you just want to scan any newer files? You don't want to scan everything inside that list, inside that folder. So if we're scanning everything inside a folder, that's not an issue. Like for example, let's say we have I am sharing my screen. So let's say we have a folder called storage, right? I'm just gonna call it storage, and we're gonna have some Excel files inside that storage folder. I don't want to iterate through all files that come in. Okay, which is fine. So I think we could do a quick example. So what I'm gonna do here is we're gonna create something basic. Let's say we have a column for first name, last name, age. Well, let's do this. State, and then let's say we do age. Well, you're gonna do something basic, but the concept is the same, right? So whatever we do here, you should be able to apply on whatever you're doing. So let's create some names, right? And we're gonna create John Smith, Texas, 35. James Powers, NY 20. That's fine for now, right? So let me save this. I'm gonna end up saving this in that storage folder. So let me get that saved. Storage. So it really doesn't matter what name we call it, but I'm just gonna call it rep list, and then I'll do something like whatever today's date is, right? So it'd be 2022 03 18. Cool, right? So I got that saved. So now what I'm gonna do is, let me come over here. I'm gonna create a copy of this. So we're gonna create a few copies. Let's call it 17. We'll change the data in some of these in a minute, but just want to create a copy. So let's create 3 files for now, right? I mean, again, the script should work even with many files, but just kind of get things going. So let me change some of the data in this guy. I guess in the other, whatever 2. Paul Smith, CA 23, Jill Smith, Texas 45. Let's add one more. Peter, newer, just making up stuff. Florida 20, right? So let's save this guy. And now let's change the other one as well. Bob Filler, okay, right? Oklahoma 56. We could do James, Big, Florida 85. Let's do one more. Jackie examples, Texas. I don't know. I'm just 75, right? So at least we have different values, different names. So it all depends on what you're trying to find. So let's say, for example, in our case, we want to find all of the rows that have the Texas state in the file. So we know this one has 1. I believe this one has 0. No, it has 1 as well. And then I think this one may have one record for Texas. Yep, we have 1. So we have 3 records total, 1 for each file. Right? So assuming that the format's the same, everything's, in the same order. Let's go ahead and let me create, I already created a project. So let me open this up. There it goes. All right, so I have my folder in there. That's fine. Let me create a new file. We're gonna call this value lookup py. Just call it that for now. So what are you trying to find for? In this case, you're trying to find a double on each state. So are you trying to say if Texas existed twice, you want to identify that, hey, Texas is twice in this file? Or are you trying to show the 2 rows? Like if there is 2 Texas in the file, are you trying to show hey, these are the 2 rows that have Texas? Or are you just trying to just show that, hey, we have the count of Texas is greater than 1, I guess. And because it's greater than 1, just show an indicator, this file has a value of Texas, that exists more than once. I want to count all of the different states and store them to a variable. So are you trying to get a count though per file or per folder, right? So we saw right now in the example that we have here, we know that Texas exists 3 times, once in each file. So are you trying to get a count of all the files? In this case, where let's say Texas would be a count of 3, or are you trying to do it on a per file basis for the entire folder? Okay. So let's do that. So that means in this case, really what you're looking for is not necessarily to specify what you're looking for, but it sounds like you're trying to just get a count of, all right, let's count all the states and let's see how many times that, let's say, state exists in all of the files. We know Texas will be 3, California maybe 1, New York maybe 2, whatever that is. That's at least that's what it seems like what you're seeking anyways. So let's get started with a few things, right? One of the things we will do will be import OS. We could use is the let's do the list directory, right? So let's try that. So first, let me do my directory pass. So let me go ahead and get that. So now I have my directory pass. What we're going to end up doing is let's do a for file in OS list directory. So let's take a look at this real quick. There it goes. So this gave us pretty much what we want, right? We have 3 files in here. So at least we know this is the starting point, right? The starting point is we specify where the files are going to come from, and then ultimately we're going to iterate over, right? List of directory. We're pretty much iterating over, which we're able to get the file name. So that's step number 1, because that's kind of exactly what we want. Now that we're able to at least list all the files, next step is we need to read each file one by one, and of course extract the value and so on. So for that, I'm gonna have to let me create a virtual environment, because I'm gonna need a virtual environment in this case, since I'm gonna have to import in a package. No, let me open up my terminal. Oops. YouTube, Python. Yep, this is it. So I'm gonna create a env folder. No, I don't need to do that. What am I talking about? I'm gonna call this env. I'm in that folder. So ultimately, I'm creating a virtual environment here. That's what I need to do first, because I'm gonna have to import in a package. So the package that I'm gonna probably import in, probably gonna be open. What is it? PyXL. I think that's what it's called. I haven't used it in a while, but this is. I think this is the best one to use. All right, my virtual environment's ready. Let me go ahead and activate it. Yeah, let me make this bigger. It's kind of small, I just noticed. Let me make this bigger too. All right, that should be good. All right, so now that I have this activated, let's go ahead and install OpenPyXL. Cool. So now that I have that installed, we should be good. So next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna read. So I haven't done this in a while. This is where documentation comes in handy. So what we're gonna do, let's take a look at the this package real quick. Where's their documentation page? There it goes. And let's look at inserting, deleting, row. Nope. Let's look at this guy. So we want to be able to read. There it goes. We want to read. So ultimately, we're going to import this in the load workbook. We're going to specify the file name, as you can see here. This is the workbook, and then we're going to have the sheet range. We're really so. If you're dealing with only one worksheet, then you're fine. But if you're dealing with like multiple worksheets, then we would have to specify what worksheet you're dealing with. So in your case, how many worksheets are you dealing with? Are you dealing with one worksheet, or are you dealing with like multiple worksheets in Excel? I just want to make sure on how we need to address that in your scenario. Okay, only one worksheet, so that's good. So let's go ahead and let's play around with it, right? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna import in. You know what? In order for this to work well over here, I'm gonna have to find it. Let me specify the my environment over here. You know what? That's fine. So open XLPY import load workbook. All right. So we're gonna bring this. We gotta bring in this file in. Then what we're gonna do next is, so I'm gonna add this in this piece. I'll leave that here for now. What we're going to do is load the workbook, but we're gonna do one workbook at a time. Load workbook, and then this would be file name. But what I'm gonna have to do here is let me do it over here. I'm gonna call this file directory path, which is the directory and the file name pretty much concatenated together. That's what I'm doing here. So I'm gonna join. This will be directory path, and we're gonna concatenate the file name, which is the file directory path. So that's what we're gonna specify here. This would read that workbook. So that's ultimately what it's gonna do now. It's gonna read this workbook. Now we have this workbook in place. I'm trying to think. I think by default, if you only have one worksheet, we don't need to specify worksheet. It'll bring it in, but I believe so anyways. We'll find out in a minute. So let's see. So let's kind of come back to the documentation over here. So this is how we read the work. This makes sense. We don't need to create that. That's fine. Okay. Let me move this to the side. Okay, so this, at least we get that data into only one worksheet. All right, so at least this will get our data into that. The next thing that we're gonna do is we are gonna have to iterate over. Let me see. So if we know, and again, this is what I'm trying to think through, if we're specifying a specific column, right? Because again, let's say we're trying to read state in this case, we know state is going to be column 3, or like, you know, index. I believe in Excel it's not 0. Like whenever you read it, again, we'll test it out, but I believe it's going to be 1, 2, and 3. So it will be index column 3, and that will be the column that we would have to read. So if that's the case, let's see. What we will need to do here, I believe, is going to be, so we're going to call this worksheet equals workbook active. Active means getting, we're going to have one, we only have one tab. So it's only getting the whatever active. If you have multiple tabs, it will get the tab when you open up Excel that shows up first. That will be the tab that it shows when we do active. So let me test something out. So we want to do worksheet. Max rows. Let me try that. So let me close out of this, and let's run. Let me make sure it's saved. Yeah, it's saved. So let's go ahead and run this. Oops! Oh shit! I ran the wrong thing. Let me make sure my camera doesn't freeze up on me again. Let me activate my app on my phone. I need to get another camera because this camera shuts off after every 30 minutes. So I don't have to keep dealing with this. Either way, all right, let me go ahead and try it again. So it'll be Python value lookup. There it goes. So this shows we have 4 rows, and 3 rows, which is right because we actually do have 4, and 3. I believe one of them, it's really a header, and then it's 3 rows, a header, 3 rows, and one of them has a header and 2 rows. So that's actually valid, right? It's reading it properly. So the max rows will be what we will need to know how many, when we start to do the iteration on where we start, I guess. So what we would do here is, let me think. I'm trying to think here. If we know we have a max of 4, you know what? This makes sense. So what we could do is a 4 row in range 1 would be a starting point. Then it could be, in this case, WS row max +1. But this is really our index. Let's do index. That's what this is. So this will give us the index of from iterating a row, from 1 through whatever it is, right? And in our case, it's 1 through 4, 1 through 3. So by us doing that iteration, I'm just trying to think. We want to skip the first row because we know the first row is a header. So if index equals 1, we don't want to do anything here. Else, let's say let's do something like let's do row worksheet. What is it called? Cell. We need to specify each cell. Row equals the index. Column equals, what was it, 3, I believe? I think that's what we said, it was 3. And then we're gonna print that out. So let's do this real quick. So let me save that. Let's run that. Oh, I'm not getting the right value. My bad. So I need to specify value. That's what it is. Right. So now let's run it again. Boom. There it goes. So you could tell my column is 3, which is specifying the state. And then of course I'm iterating over. Now it's only printing out the actual rows, not the header, because I put this if else logic, right? If it happens to be index 1, I know that 1 is the header. So I want to pretty much just skip it. I don't want to do nothing. Anything after that, go ahead, and in my case, I'm just printing it out. So I think this is a step. I think this gets us close to what we're trying to do here. Let me delete this. I don't need this anymore. We don't need to see this. So what I could do now is I'm getting the value that I need. We're iterating over each file. So let's say if we were to do maybe some sort of, I'm just gonna do something up here, right? I'm gonna call it D for now. We create a dictionary object that's empty. what we could probably do here is, I'm trying to think on how this would work. Dot value, which would be the state. And we could do a counter. Let me see if this would work. Nope. No, this makes sense on why it wouldn't work. I'm trying to think. Let me see. So this would be. I actually did something like this a while back. I'm trying to think. So what we're gonna have to do here is we're technically adding new keys. Like keys do not exist yet, so we need to add new keys and then do a counter on those keys. What we could do is man, let me see. I'm trying to think what's the best way to do this. Let me see. It's been a while since I've done this, so let's do a little bit of research right quick on this piece. I think once we figure this piece out, I've done it before, man. It's been a while, and it's what happens when you don't do shit for a while. You kind of forget. So what I'm trying to do is, if I have a dictionary, then I want to add a new key to that dictionary. Like here's a good example. Using the same dictionary, just only have those two keys, key 1, key 2. I'm adding a new key. So let me try that. I may not be able to increment because it doesn't exist, and that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I knew that's what it was. Okay, so this is fine. What I need to do here is I'm gonna do D row value. No, that's not right. Set default. And this would be row value, comma, if there is no value, it would be 1. Let me think. If the key doesn't exist, you know what? We could do something else. This would actually work. I just thought about it. One thing that we could do is we could check if the key exists. So let's do that. Dictionary, and we will get ultimately a true or false statement back if it does exist or if it does not exist. Let's see. Okay, so let's try this real quick. I believe if we were to do if D dot get row value. If this is true, then it would be this, and I could do row value plus 1. Else, if that does not exist, let me just comment this out for now. Row value equals 1, and then let me just print at the very end this dictionary, see what we get. Boom, there it goes. I think we got it. So what I'm doing here, and again, I've actually printed it out here so we can see it. We have Oklahoma once. Yep, only this one. Florida, the 1, 2 times. Yep, 2. Texas, 1, 2, 3. 3. California, 1. New York, 1. Okay, so this actually gives us a count based on that key value and how often they repeat itself. And so this is iterating over all the files. So now let's go back, right? Let's go back and let's say we're going to add another file, right? Because that's what you mentioned. We may have other files, newer files. So if that's the case, let's just go through. We have a new file for the 19th. Let's open this bad boy up. Jill, Bill, and this person from New York, and who knows, right? 78. J, Smalls, CA, 15. Pete, Mills, this is person from Florida, 15. Let's add one more. Mark, Paul, OK, Oklahoma, 23. All right, so save it. Let's close out of it, and now I'm gonna rerun this again. And let's see, now we have Florida 3, Oklahoma 2, California 2. So again, we compare it to what we ran before. Boom, it worked. California has another one, New York has 2, Florida has an extra one, Oklahoma has an extra one. Boom. So I think this is, I mean, we're getting, I don't know if this solves all of your issues, but I think we're making progress. I mean, so what are your thoughts so far on what we're doing? We're able to iterate through Excel, right? We're reading the worksheet. We're iterating over the worksheet. We're specifying which column we want to look at. In this case, it is a specific column. And then, of course, we're checking to see, if this key value exists in our dictionary, and if it does exist, then we increment. If it doesn't, then of course we set it to 1, and then at the end you could print out to kind of determine what the total is, I guess, that you're trying to aggregate. All right, man. I mean, so it sounds like this, at least hopefully this helps out, kind of gives you what you're looking for. Let me just kind of share everything. It's kind of small piece of code too, because at the end I could just simply save the dictionary to a file. You can, right? So what we did, we created a dictionary. If you're trying to get results, these results, and save it, for example, then yeah, you could either you could iterate over the dictionary, and I don't know how you're trying to save it. I don't know if you're trying to save it like in a JSON format, which if that's the case, it's very easy. You can start in the dictionary format, or you're trying to save it in Excel or CSV. But even if it's Excel, CSV, there's a way to iterate over the keys, and ultimately it'll be like two columns, right? You got your key column, which in this case happens to be the state code, and then of course you have the count, and then you could ultimately save those results out. But I mean, I think this kind of gets you at least mostly there. So hopefully this, this helps out. And it's not too bad too when you think about it, right? Overall, I mean, we're looking at what, 22 lines of code. That's not a lot of lines of code. A lot of these you could easily package it better if you're trying to make some sort of like function. Where if you're trying to have like the SQL file to run, you could have a variable where this ends up being a variable. Because maybe you have multiple files you want to do the same thing to. But again, that's if, for now, depending on what you're trying to do, this works. But you want to take it more advanced, there's things you could do to kind of clean it up. All right, Christopher. Well, I mean, I'm glad that I was able to help you out. And then again, that's kind of what we're doing here, man. That's the whole purpose. Have a little drink, kind of hang out with everybody and talk code, man. If I'm able to help you out with anything, I'm more than happy to help you out. And of course, with these streams that we're doing, that I'm doing, the goal is to kind of help you out in real time. So you'll get your answers, you get results, right away, right? So glad that I was able to help you out. And again, this stream is being saved on YouTube. So of course, if you ever need to review the code, you're more than happy to go find this live stream on my YouTube channel. And you could always look at that video and kind of find, I guess the time. What time is it? 10:38. So it'll probably be within an hour and 40 minutes or so within the stream. So you could always do that if you need to review it later, or just take a screenshot and then you should be good, because it's not a lot of code either. So glad that I was able to help you out. Gotta say, man, I do like it. I do like this tequila. It does taste good. The smell, I feel like I have tasted some that has the stronger agave smell. I don't know. I love that, man. I love the smell of the agaves and the tequila. But this is smooth. It tastes good. It goes down smooth. I do recommend it. It's good. Again, guys, man, any questions you have, this is something that I'm pretty much doing. I've been doing, this is my 4th Friday, and I'm planning on doing it every Friday going forward. And that's kind of what this whole series is, right? Called Drinking with Lou. I'm tasting new tequila, new bourbons, new whiskeys, because that's what I drink. Tequila, bourbon, and whiskeys. Then I'll kind of share my feedback on the drink, but we will also talk tech, like we're doing now. If you have questions, you have issues, you're stuck on Python, you need help, I'd be more than happy to, we'll walk through it together, try to solve the problem and help you out whichever way I can. So that's kind of, the whole purpose of, this series that I'm doing, right? And again, if those of y'all who are watching, man, give me a follow if you can. If you're not following already, give me a thumbs up on some of my videos, man. I'm much appreciative of whatever you could do. And that's all I ask for, man. I'm not asking for any funds or none of that stuff. I'm doing very well business wise, so I'm doing this because I enjoy doing this, man. I do like to code. I like to share my knowledge, and if I could help out, that's what I'm gonna do, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I like to drink tequila. So that's kind of what I'm doing too, right? It's a combination of two things. So I'm doing things that I enjoy, man, and it's, so for me, this is actually fun. So again, whatever I could help y'all out with, I'll be on live every Friday. So even if you come across a question or an issue during the week, remember, man, I'll be on Fridays. So jump on the stream. And I'll try to do whatever I can to kind of help you out with your issue that you have. So, and then again, if you do have some source code that you're stuck with and maybe you need my help, you're more than welcome to email me, whatever you want to share, by all means. But if you do want to share something, you're more than welcome to email me at contact@iamlou.net. And then of course, like that, it's not, you're not putting any kind of code or anything in the chat where everybody else could see it either. So you're more than welcome to do that as well. If there is anything that you actually want me to look into your review, because maybe you're stuck and you have a bug, you can't figure it out. So you could always do that as well, and then we'll try to solve it in the live stream. So what time is it? It's 10:41. So we got about another 20 minutes here. So if there is anything tech related y'all want to talk about, man, let me know. If not, we'll just talk about whatever. Again, I'm just talking about this tequila, and that smell though, man. Like, it smells good, but I just wish it was stronger, man. There's something about that agave smell that I love so much, and this one lacks that. The taste is good though. It's smooth. It tastes good. Strongly recommend it. It is kind of more on the pricey side. It's $45. 45 bucks. So the taste is on point though. I gotta say, it does taste good. So I would say for a bottle that costs $45, I think it's worth it because it does taste good. It goes down smooth. I just wish it had a stronger agave smell. That's the only thing that I think it kind of lacks. But it's good though. It is good. I do have a video that I actually had a viewer request this, and I'm probably going to do it tomorrow, so I'll be posting it tomorrow. It's going to be related to what they want to do. They want to be able to scan through their inbox, like all their emails, and I guess find certain keywords that they feel that will make the email become spam. And if they find those keywords, they want to delete the emails. So initially the request was like, hey, I want to be able to connect to Outlook. And I think in their mind, they're thinking more like using something like Celium. So those of you who are not familiar with Celium, did I say it right? I didn't say it right. Damn it. I always have trouble saying it. Celium. Yeah, that is kind of right in a ways. But either way, it's a... let me see if I can find it real quick, man, so I can kind of show y'all. Damn it. Let's see. Python. There it goes. Let me share my screen. So those of you who are not familiar with it, this is a there it goes. This is not it, is it? This is it. So this ultimately, I actually have a few scripts right now that I run, and I pull data. My client needs to pull data from this platform. That platform does not have an API to be able to pull data from. So, but what they do offer the UI that you could like log in, click on the report, enter in some kind of filter, click download, and ultimately, export out the report and do all of that stuff. So it's just like the way a user will click and do all this stuff. I was able to automate those steps. I was able to connect to it. If it's not logged in, it logs in automatically, hits login. It opens, it logs into the window. It does all the steps that a normal human person would do to be able to do that. And that's kind of what I end up using. I end up using Celium to do that. I don't think I'm pronouncing it right, but that's fine. Y'all know what I mean. So the request that I got to be able to read through emails. Let's see. We'd love to see this training. Yeah, man, that's cool. So I'm being more than happy to kind of share the Celium script that I built, if that's what you're asking about, to log in and do all of those steps. I may have to do, I guess for that, I don't know if I could do it through a live stream. And the reason why I say that is it is under my client's account, and I don't want to show any data that relates to my client. But let me see what I could do, because I think there's some reports on there that are more like generic data, nothing specific to my client. So I think in that case, I may be able to show those reports. So let me review it, and maybe next week, because it's already about to be 11, I'll have, if everything's good, I'll kind of walk you through that process, and then I could show you like the script that I put together on how I did certain things, and probably make a video of it as well, because there's a few things you have to do to make it work properly. But yeah, I think that's actually a good thing to kind of show. So let me review it, and I'll try to show it next week at least, and kind of go over the script that I put together. So we could do that next week, but it's cool though, man. It's pretty much you're automating the UI. Everything that you do on a normal UI app, pretty much Celium does, right? You could click here, click the drop down, click the link, do all of that stuff. You're able to automate, and but so that's kind of what I'm doing for that project. But the request that I got from the viewer was like, hey, I want to be able to log into Outlook. I'm assuming he means the web, anyways, to the Outlook web, the web version, not the desktop version, and then be able to scan through each email. Which again, I think in his mind he's thinking using like Beautiful Soup, which is a package that's ideal to kind of parse data, like HTML data, and then they'll go through all of that process, then identify it and then delete it. That honestly, I think that's a pain in the ass. It's way more complicated to do it that way, way more challenging. The more easier way, and that's kind of what I told the client, like I'll make a video, and I think I'm going to do it tomorrow. I should have time to do it tomorrow, is connecting to the Exchange, not Outlook, but the Exchange API. By connecting to the Exchange API, you could, especially if you have keywords that you're looking for, you could identify emails through the keywords. So let's say you're trying to find, one of the keywords is, I don't know, like just pick something, like nudity or I don't know. So I'm just trying to find something, whatever, right? Let's say violence, right? Let's say that's a keyword, violence. Anything that has the word violence in it, you want to just delete that email, because in your mind you're saying that, oh, that's junk anyways, so I don't want to delete. Well, you could provide that as a parameter, like I want to find an email of violence, and then it's gonna go and scan all of your emails, and then if it finds, let's say, 5 emails with the word violence in it, it's going to give you back the ID, like the object, better yet. And the object contains the ID, email ID, the message, and all that stuff. Well, with that ID, once you have that ID, now you could just delete that, send a command back to Exchange saying delete this ID. Pretty much saying delete the email. And then it'll delete the email. That's way more easier to do than doing the whole going down the Celium route and using Beautiful Soup and doing all that kind of stuff. So, either way, I told him that it's actually more easier to use the Exchange API instead of doing it the way he was initially thinking. And so I'm gonna make a video tomorrow, and then of course, if you take a look at it. So if you ever work on any projects that relates to that, that kind of that action item, right? You're trying to scan through the emails and delete certain emails, or maybe identify emails or whatever. That script should work for that. And for me, the reason why even like that script that I'm going to make a video for, I worked on a project, like again, a client had a request where they were going to send emails. They want to be able to send emails out of their system, and based on those emails will have attachments, multiple attachments, 5 files, 7 files, it just depends. Well, they wanted me to be able to take those attachments and then ultimately merge them all together to one PDF, and then on top of that, send that over to the client's client system. So one of the things that I looked into, and that's kind of where I kind of have the code already in place for that, is where I had the client email out of their system to my email with a specific subject header. So what I was able to do is I was able to in the Exchange API, specify I'm looking for this subject that has this specific name. So ultimately we'll find any email with that specific subject name, and then it'll give me back those objects, those emails. And then once I got the email back, those emails contain everything, contain attachments, body, body text, all that stuff, the ID of the email. So then I was able to download the files, save them locally, and then I was able to send a command back to the Exchange API to say delete the email. Once I download the files and everything's good, I don't need it anymore. I just delete it, and then from there, the next step was to merge all the PDF files together and send it over to the client system. So I mean, all of that extra stuff, I'm not going to do that in the video, but what I'm going to do is more so just kind of show when I make the video tomorrow on calling the Exchange API to get back emails that have those keywords. Then, of course, from there, you could do whatever you want to do with them. In this case, we're going to delete them because that's kind of what the client asked for. Not the client, the viewer. I don't know why I'm saying client, but the viewer, that's kind of what they, that's what they requested was, hey, I just want to delete these. Because for them, it's like, I'm going to tag these as spam anyways. Because they're spam, I just need to delete them. So again, I'll do a video of it and should do it tomorrow. And not tomorrow, Sunday, but I think it's gonna be tomorrow. I should have time to do it tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that if you're interested on that piece. But on the Celium piece, I'll show that tomorrow. Even if I don't show it on the platform that I have it running, like the app that I'm using it on right now, like the web app that I'm using it on today. I should be able to put a quick sample together on one of like my own personal apps, and where I could kind of share that, and at least you kind of you'll get an idea of what it does and how it works and all that kind of stuff. So that would be good to kind of show for next week. What else? We got about 7 minutes. There's a few things that I'm working on. I think I'm gonna make a video of it in my house. I love technology, man. I'm a programmer. I love doing that. I enjoy it. But I'm a tech guy as well. Like I like gadgets as well. Like my phone. I have the Galaxy Fold 3. Well, I had the Galaxy Fold 1. It's over here, right? The old version. The one, I have the 3. I love it. It's not cheap. I will tell you that right now. It is actually expensive for a phone. But I don't spend my money like... I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong on how people spend money. Everybody spends money on how they feel on what they want to use it for. Some people spend money on cars, jewelry, trips or whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that, man. At the end of the day, there really isn't. I don't really care much about cars and trips or whatever. I take trips more so because of my family. I do have a family, and my wife wants to take a trip. She wants to go do things. So I do it more for that reason, but it's not something that I would go out of my way and do. It's not right. I like doing the thing that I enjoy, and most of that stuff it's here at home. What I do in my office, I have projects, build PCs, and streaming, and I'm working on apps, and doing all kinds of stuff. So I would say that is where I do spend probably more of my money is on RAM, on a new CPU, right? Like my workstation has a Gen 11 CPU. It's not new because Intel has Gen 12, but either way, it has a Gen 11, which I'm gonna rebuild my streaming PC that I have over here now, and I'm actually leaning to Intel, getting an Intel piece processor, which means I need to get a new motherboard. What I have now is the AMD. Man, I like AMD. Man, AMD, I think, was for the longest the best bang for your buck. As of late, though, I would say though, man, Intel, their prices have dropped. They're very comparable to AMD's, and I actually think there's in some cases they're actually slightly better, especially Gen 12, the new generation of Intel processors. I would say they actually are better, slightly better than an AMD processor. So I think because of that, my next build is going to be Intel Gen 12 for my streaming PC, which you see here. I have the graphics card already. I have a 6900 XT, the AMD GPU. So that's a beefy graphics card. It's pretty much the high end AMD graphics card that's available. It's supposed to be comparable to a 3090 Nvidia. I don't think it is. I think it's a few notches below a 3090, but it's very comparable to a 3080. It's kind of in between a 3080 and a 3090. So, but either way, that's pretty powerful, man. So that, I think I'm set. I don't need to buy another GPU. I'm good on there, but I do need to get another motherboard. I'm gonna probably, when I do upgrade, get DDR5. My only problem with DDR5 is so damn expensive, but I think I could get a motherboard that is dual DDR4 and DDR5. So maybe for now, what I do, I'll buy DDR4. Then later on, I could upgrade to DDR5 when the prices go down. It just, man, it's too expensive, man. I don't like. I mean, I spend money on technology because I enjoy it, but I'm not gonna just waste money either like that either. Like, I do try to find where it's reasonable price. But that's gonna be one of my next projects. Again, I just build me a workstation that I use for my work. It's over there on that side. The case is awesome. It's a big case too, so it's very easy to kind of to install everything. I have a 1000-watt platinum power supply. I think I have I do have 64 gigs of RAM. I have Intel 7 Gen 11 11700K processor, so I could overclock it. So it's good for what I do over there for work. Over here, it's kind of, again, it's about 3 years old. The only thing that's new on my streaming PC that I have now, it's my GPU, which is a 6900 XT, and that's awesome, dude. Like, for gaming, it is awesome. It is. I had before that a 5700 XT, which is the older generation of AMD GPUs, like the high end. And I was playing Halo Infinite. I was getting like 60 frames per second. Now my monitor is a 144 hertz monitor, so I'm not getting the best performance out of my graphics card. I upgraded to the 6900 XT. I'm getting like 150 frames per second, which is exactly what I needed for Halo Infinite when I do play. So it was the upgrade is well noticeable for sure. But I do need to upgrade my CPU and motherboard, and of course my RAM. I do want to get DDR5 RAM, but I'm not gonna spend that kind of money now. I'm gonna wait till later. All right, guys, it's about to be 11 o'clock already, so that's it, man. I'm gonna call it a night. I'm glad I was able to help you out, Christopher. I think what we did kind of at least gets you majority there. Again, whatever you're building, if you do have some other questions or need some additional help, again, I'll be on next week again on Friday. So, man, feel free to join and be more than happy to help you on any other issues that you may have. So, again, every Friday I'll be on, and that's the whole purpose of this, what I'm doing here, man. I'm going to drink, I'm going to have fun, we're going to talk tech, and then if there's any help that you need, anything I can do to help you out, by all means, let me know, and we'll do what we did today. We'll literally go and test things out, code it, test it out until we get it to work, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, thanks for joining, for watching, and I'll be back on next week again, same time, Friday, from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Peace.